Everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Modeling Podcast. I'm your host, Alec. Today's going to be another fun conversation. If you've been tuning into this season, we're talking about stories that help inspire, stories that pass human knowledge on, experiences on. Stories were so formative for the human being society over time. I mean, we learned everything we knew before written word through stories. And some of you loan officers out there can thrive on these stories, learn from them, and go. I'm bringing on a buddy who I've known in this industry for what has to be 15 years. I was thinking about it earlier. It's been a long time that I've known this guy. He's impressed me not only with his character, but with his work ethic, his ability to drive forward and overcome obstacles, so to speak. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on a good friend of mine, Cory DePass, and we're going to rock and roll. Mikey, play it. You just got to saddle up and in, but bring it tight. Yeah, you got to scoot in like another inch, man. What's up, everybody? Cory, thanks for coming in, dude. Thanks for doing it live so that we can be comfortable in the same space.
Yeah, it might be a mistake. We'll find out.
That I'm live or that I brought you in the show?
You brought me on live. You may regret that in about 45 minutes.
All right. Well, look, first of all, to frame it up for people that don't know you, and we're gonna have some fun stories to tell. I know a lot of secret stories too that we'll see if we can get out of you today. But for a year-to-date production, where are you guys at?
As a region, we're about 350 million,
dude. And is this gonna be a personal best this year, or did you beat that last year?
Last year we ended at 440.
Okay.
This year we might beat it.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll find out. We've grown a little bit. We went through a transition, obviously. So, there's always some lost business during a transition, but I think we should probably end up around that same number, maybe a little bit more.
Did you ever think you'd be doing this kind of business in your life?
No, actually, as a matter of fact, I used to see people doing more business, a lot more business with these big teams and all these employees. And I used to think to myself, I want no part of that.
Yeah, no. I'm just going to stick in my lane, do my 150 million, 200 million.
Work-life balance, keep everything cool. I don't want to be the $500 million guy.
And then all of a sudden,
things change over time. Yeah.
All right. So let's do this as we tell stories, as the loan officers listen and get to experience, maybe something happening in their own life that can translate to you.
Sure.
How did you find lending? How did you find the industry? What's the story there?
Oh, that's a good question. I was actually selling gym memberships.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. You remember this? I was selling gym memberships.
Well, look at you. I mean, you're built for selling gym memberships.
At LA Fitness. I was fresh out of high school. All my friends went to college. I did not. I went to work at a gym. And I was selling gym memberships, and a guy walked in that owned a mortgage company, and he said, "Hey, I'm coming. I just want to look at the gym." And when he left, I ended up signing a paid in full PIF. They called him PIF.
Yeah, he did.
Which was like the best.
Closed him.
Which was like the best if you signed a paid in full, that was like, that was the deal. So he ended up signing a paid in full membership. He left, and he gave me his card, and he said, "Hey, if you ever want to sell loans, call me." And so, immediately I called him, and I took me down right here off MacArthur and Hutton Center Drive. And the first thing he did.
How old are you? I
was 19.
Oh, yes.
The first thing he did, which was very smart, was he took me to the parking garage.
Of course, bro. He knows exactly what he's doing.
I went straight to the parking garage, and he said, "That car, that car, that car, that car, and that car, all Mercedes and BMWs."
Yeah, of course.
He said, "Those are all my guys, and they're all your age." And I said, "Okay, when do I start?" And
they made a movie about this. It's a scene, by the way.
Yeah,
I've seen the scene.
Yeah, dude. And I said, "It's exactly how it went down." And so I started selling loans when I was 19 years old. It was a call center, more, 228s, arms, things like that. Boiler room style.
Yeah, I was going to say boiler room. Jessica understands it's a boiler room.
Boiler room style. Guys working 12 hours a day.
Yes.
Just madness. And that was like 19 to 22 years old.
So what happened?
I worked at that company. 2007 happened. 2008, 2007 happened.
I don't know if anyone else experienced 2007 and 8.
I actually came. This is another crazy story. So I came to work one day.
Yeah.
And the doors were locked. Lending had stopped. There was no more loans, no more money. I text the owner of my company, no response.
Of course.
There was two.
Because he's gone.
He's gone. I text the other owner of my company, and he was gone. No response.
Yes.
And so I went down and got one of those payday loans. You know those
Oh,
loans?
for real?
It was like, yeah. Like $5,000. You get like a payday loan.
Like an advance.
Yeah, like an advance.
With a good interest rate, I'm sure.
Great. 25% interest rate.
Yes.
So I went and I remember I was panicking. I'm like, oh no, I don't, what am I going to do? So I went down and got one of those. And yeah, that was the beginning of the end of the mortgage industry. I was living on the peninsula on the sand, had a, brand new Mercedes. I thought I had made it. I was the guy. And within a few short months, I moved back home with my mom and sold the Mercedes and went down on the rent for the place that I was living at.
Yep.
And I was back at home. And that was like 2007, I think the beginning of 2007.
There's a lot of loan officers that had that happen to them.
Yeah.
Especially young originators, by the way, because they
Sure.
preyed on young originators. Right. Those companies preyed on people all day long.
Well, yeah, because they knew that we had nothing else going on.
Yeah.
It's the only job you could walk into where you basically had to have zero experience.
Didn't need a license back then.
Didn't need a license. You didn't need a degree.
Nope.
That was something I was probably never going to get, was a degree. And, they would just, exactly what happened to me, just bring them in, keep bringing them in and bringing them in. And then, obviously all that stopped. And I didn't know anybody that stayed in the mortgage business through that time. I know you guys did. I know a couple guys, the countrywide guys. Yeah, a couple countrywide guys stuck around. But outside of that, I didn't know anybody else that stayed.
So how long were you out of the space then?
So I got out in 2007. I did a stint in Vegas for about a year, which was interesting. That's
another podcast.
That's a different podcast. And then I came back, and I didn't get back into the business until iMortgage, end of 2010, beginning of 2011, when I met you.
Yeah, I remember. That was wild.
Yeah. And by the way, let me just say something for everybody out there. You were probably the single most influential person in my career early on in my career. When I was brand new and I didn't have any loans and didn't know what it was like, hey, here's a stack of business cards, go find business somewhere. You were probably the single most influential person in my career early on when I had no loans and I had no business. So I wanted to shout you out on that and just give you some credit, because I didn't, when I got back into the business, I didn't know. I remember something you said to me, which was super impactful at the time. We went out to lunch. There's these weird things that you like remember that you'll never really forget kind of along the way in your career. I remember you said to me, do you want a job or do you want a career? And I said, I've done the job thing. That ended up me showing up to an office one day with the door locked. No explanation. I did the job thing and I wanted a career. And you said, okay, well, if you want a career, then you got to get into the purchase business and you got to get into the self-generated purchase business. You can't do the lead thing because that's tied to the market and the interest rates. And you got to build this thing. And it's going to take you a long time. It's not going to happen overnight. It might take you months or even years to build the business. But if you stay consistent and you don't give up, eventually it's going to click. And I believed you.
Well, that's good.
Thank God. I believed you. And there were some other guys, Nick and Ryan, there were some other guys that were in the business at the same time that helped solidify that belief. But yeah, it was real weird in the beginning, getting back into the business and not really knowing how to get purchase business. And literally it was, here's a stack of business cards, get out of the office. Cause if you're in the office, you're not getting business. So it was get out of the office and go find loans somewhere. And, I was like, well,
tremendous advice.
I was like, what does that mean? And And I remember there was times like at iMortgage where we would, we'd whiteboard it out. And something else that you said that was super impactful that I actually still talk about to this day. You said you don't have to be good. You just have to be there.
Yeah.
And if you're good and you're there, you're going to blow up. And that to me clicked because I figured out, okay, if I just keep showing up and I stay in front of these people, eventually they're going to have to send me a loan. You know, I don't have to be the most likable guy in the world. I don't have to be the most charismatic guy in the world. But if I keep showing up and I show them that I want their business, eventually they're going to give me their loan. And, the flip side of that is when we did get those loans, we did a really good job at getting them done. Of
course.
Or we probably wouldn't have got another one.
All right. So before I go to my next question, I have to do this little tangent for anybody new in the industry just listening to Cory, because Cory and I both got the same advice. Maybe I was giving it to him, but it was given to me the same way.
Sure.
Actually getting out in front of people, building relationships is the game.
Yep.
Now there's other ways to do it. I talk a ton about digital and social, but the game has never changed.
Sure.
And you're right. If you just show up, you're beating 90% of the team.
Yep.
You don't even know, by the way, especially if you're new and you see all these seasoned loan officers, these powerhouses, you think they're everywhere. You think they're in front of they're not. They're busy too. They're doing stuff. Trust me, because none of us could have broken the business if they were everywhere and just kept us out.
Right.
We figured it out. So I thank you for that. By the way, that was really nice. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's go here though. So how long did it take you to break through? And did you have a breakthrough moment where you were like, I'm finally out of the garbage?
I did. I remember it pretty distinctly. So the first 9 months when I was in the business, I did not get a paycheck. I got the old draw. So inside that first 9 months, I was going to Ocean's 11 and playing poker at night.
Of course you were.
I was collecting unemployment.
Bro.
From the EDD, and because I wasn't getting paid, but I was getting paid. It was a draw.
It's weird how that works.
We squared that away. We paid them back over time, but it was hard, dude. There was probably some points where I wanted to get out of the business, and I'll never forget this. Somebody gave me a title list to call through for refinances. This is while I'm out going to open houses every weekend and broker previews. And,
earning it.
So I get this title list and I call on this title list and I get this client. I think her name was Rose, but I ended up doing a reverse mortgage for her and really helped her out. And I got paid, and that was my first real paycheck in the business. And if it weren't for that one transaction, I might've got out because that kind of like bridged the next, 90 days to 120 days. But kept going to the broker previews, kept going to the open houses, kept showing up. And then
why though? Because it's painful. You're not getting paid. You're calling title lists to try to scratch a deal. What kept you going?
Well, number one, like I said, I believed what you told me. And I also believed that I could do it because I saw other guys that were doing it.
Yeah. Nice.
Too. Right. Like I saw other guys in our office that like, if they can do it, I can do it kind of thing. For me, it was like, well, he's not going to be able to do anything that I can't. If he can do it, I can do it. So it made it real.
Good.
Seeing other young guys in the business at the time that it did a lot of business and that style made it real for me. So yeah, I would just, all the stuff So
what was the breakthrough moment? What happened with a?
Well, there was so another thing you told me was you got to get an MSA. I didn't even know what an MSA was at the time. I just knew that we had to.
What year was this?
This was 2011.
11. Okay.
2011, beginning
10 years
of 12.
ago. 10 years ago.
10 years ago. And you got to get an MSA. You got an MSA. And I didn't really know what that was. I just knew that was like the grail. That was like the holy grail to a self-generated originator, because that meant that you had access to not just one realtor that was sending you business, but an entire office.
And if they're the right partner, you actually get that influence. You get that seat at the table.
Absolutely.
If there's the wrong partner, you get screwed, and it's terrible. And you know this, but so what happened?
So I started working with a realtor that was at a real estate office. And I did a couple transactions with them. We did a really good job. And I knew that the lender that was already in there was not doing a good job. Yeah. And so I asked for a meeting with the owner of the company.
Oh, I remember.
And you and I went in there and had an interesting meeting with him. And they basically said, yeah, we'll do it. We want you to be our preferred lender. And I had thought I won the lottery at the time. I thought it was over. I thought I'm gonna get all this business. I'm cashing out.
I've ascended.
I'm on another level. And then once the deal was done and we agreed that we were going to be their in-house, their preferred lender, there was like, okay, well, now you got to go get the business from these people.
That's right. That's right.
You get access. We're not guaranteeing you business. We're guaranteeing you access. So I had a little office set up inside there. Nobody came into the office, but I was told that I had to go sit in this office all day at the
This is arguably what proved to me that you were going to be unstoppable in mortgage. You ate dirt sitting in that office.
Yeah.
If any loan officer out there's ever sat in a real estate office with how many agents? 400 agents, some huge, and you sit there, you get the dregs. You get people who have no chance of getting their client pre-approved, but it's their one deal, so they're forcing it on you.
It's the deal that 4 other lenders have turned down.
Yes, actually declined.
And you declined it, and you're going to fix it. And if you don't, you're trash. If you can't do this one deal that 4 other guys have turned down,
this is the truth.
You are trash, and you're never going to get another deal again.
And I'll tell everyone in the office you're trash.
I'm going to tell everybody in the office that you're trash as well, and you're not going to get another transaction from us. So I did that for a long time.
You did.
And I don't know how long I sat in there for, but anyway, they ended up not being the right partner. They were not the right fit.
Things evolve, but this is a major stepping stone for you.
Sure. Yeah. They ended up not being the greatest partner to work with. So we moved on, and but I kept doing the same things, and I had found a couple solid partners that were sending me business along the way. Some in that office, some in other offices, because I didn't stop doing what I was doing just because I got that relationship. I had continued to show up to broker previews and open houses, and
by the way, everybody should hear that like 7 times. Like, you kept doing the basics.
Yeah,
I call them the basics. You kept doing the basics.
Yeah, I really feel like I focused on the actions, not the result.
Yeah.
Because if I was focusing on the result, and this actually you can line that up anywhere in life.
Yes.
When you focus on the results, if you don't get the results, you'll want to quit. Yep. So if you just focus on the actions and just know that the results will come, and just focus on doing those things on a daily basis, it's going to happen. Yep. Eventually it's going to happen. So, the real breakthrough moment was as I kept doing those things. And there was a team. I kept going to broker previews out in Rancho Santa Margarita, and there was a team in Coto de Casa that was doing a lot of business at the time. And they had, like, at the broker previews, it was every single listing was theirs.
Yeah. I know those people
over and over and over again. And I thought to myself, that's the team I want to work with.
Yeah.
And so I showed up at the broker previews and the open houses, and I kept just staying in front. And eventually they had a listing that 2 other lenders had declined the loan on. And I had the buyer's agent coincidentally called me and said, "Hey, can you save this loan?"
Really?
And the loan was, again, it was one buyer that had been turned down twice already. So the buyer's agent goes, "Hey, can you save this loan?" I said, "Absolutely." And one thing I always did back then is, as soon as I got a transaction from a buyer, from the buy side, I would look up to see who the listing agent
all day,
immediately,
all day.
Just, who's the listing agent? Do I know them? Is it somebody that I've wanted to work with or been targeting? And it was this team. And it was the manager of the office.
Jackpot.
The team that I had been seeing for the last 6 months, that I had been staying in front of. This was our time to shine. And so I went to the listing agent, who was the manager of the whole office. It's funny how the universe, if you do the work, everything just kind of comes together. And I called him and I said, "Hey, man," and he knew who I was, because
you've been going to every one of their open houses.
I've been standing in front of him, and I said, "I can do this loan, and I can do it in 15 days." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "But if I do it in 15 days, you have to agree to a meet with me." And he said, "Deal." And we slammed it in 15 days. And then we went in and we met with them. And that team has been responsible probably for 25% of my business since 2011. If you calculate,
it's so true. It's so awesome.
If you add up all of the spinoff refis, referrals, all that together, it's probably been 25%.
Yeah.
And these people they're great friends of mine.
Yep.
I talk to him on a regular basis.
Yep.
I've gone on trips, vacations.
Yeah. You become tight with these people.
Absolutely. And yeah. So if there was one moment or turning point, I would say like this was the turning point in my career. This is when I felt like I could stop gambling at night and collecting unemployment to pay my bills. that was the moment.
How long was that? How long was it from start to that?
Okay, so I got
9 months?
No, because the 9 months was where I had that one paycheck. So I would say that was a year and a half. Maybe close to the end of 2 years before that happened, to where I felt like, okay, I'm in.
So what I love about this, Cory, and I hope somebody's listening and takes this away, is you're always you're one step from that moment. I think new originators are. You're one step from that breakthrough. Because I'm telling you that top team, all these people, they don't let you know that they're open to new partners because they don't want to be harassed. They don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
They say life's good.
Yeah.
They don't ever be like, actually my current lender kind of sucks. They don't say that because they got to be buttoned up, they got to show strength. But you're literally like 1 second away from breaking through.
Yeah. And
by the way, our boy is saying hi to us right here on YouTube. So
who's that?
R Preparo. You know that guy?
Oh, Mr. Preparo. How's it going, Ryan?
He's a good looking man.
So, the other thing to that is every single realtor in Orange County has a guy.
Of course.
Everybody has a guy.
Anyone worth their damn, of course they do.
Everybody has a guy. And this was something I learned early on too, is like, everybody has someone that they're currently working with. You just want to be there for when that person makes a mistake.
And they will.
And they will.
Or they'll become entitled.
Yeah.
Or the universe will reward you in a different way.
For sure.
Honestly.
For sure.
It just comes back around.
So, yeah, and that's because you could get discouraged too, right? You could start to go out and you could start to talk to, a bunch of agents, or you're going to broker previews, you're going to open houses, you're showing up at events, and you're trying to build relationships or taking realtors to lunch or whatever it is. And you could start to get discouraged because like, oh, he already has a guy, or he already has a guy. He already has a guy. He's working with so-and-so. Everybody has a guy.
You just have to understand this.
You have to understand that everyone has a relationship, right? And you just want to be there for when that relationship falls apart. You're there to pick up the pieces.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. I know you have a lot of stories that are formative for you in your career, in your life, because we're all made up of those things.
Sure.
We all come through different things.
Sure.
What was a transformative moment in your life? Obviously, we just learned one with that agent breakthrough, because that obviously set that was a fork. As soon as that happened, things were different.
Right.
What else have you experienced that were that moment in your life?
I would say that early on in my career, this was actually more of when it was a job, when it wasn't a career yet, when I was working at the call center. I felt like I was operating at like 50% of what I was capable of. I was 19, 20, 21 years old. So my priorities were elsewhere.
Sure.
I liked to party back then.
Yeah.
And I would do really well, and I'd work hard for like a month, and I'd get a paycheck, and then I'm gone for 30 days.
Dude, that is the story of loan officers that I know, thousands like that.
Yeah. And it's funny because this is another one of those moments that kind of sticks out that I'll never forget. And I still think about it kind of to this day, but I always felt like I was operating at 50%. I could have always done more, but I was too busy partying, or my head wasn't in the right place, that I was kind of shortchanging myself. And I remember one day I had gone on one of my little 2-week sabbaticals where I wasn't in the office, and I came in and I was hungover, and I was tired, and I was kind of like just barely getting back to it. And the old owner of this mortgage company was like a character out of a movie. He's just kind of like a villain type guy, but hilarious, right? Bald, funny, And I remember sitting down, and he walked by my office, and he's kind of walking by, and he's not expecting me to be in there, and he stops, and he kind of looks back at me, and he sees I'm in my office, and he goes, "Buddy, Do you know what it's like to have Kobe Bryant on your team and only be able to play him for 1/4 of the game, and he walks away? And I stared at that wall for, I'm telling you, an hour, and that thought resonated. I thought about that for weeks. I'm still thinking about it to this day. And I was 20 years old. And at the time I didn't take action on that because I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't
What
really
did that
ready
mean
to
for you when you heard that the first
It
time?
reaffirmed everything I was already thinking.
Like, I have it in me.
I felt like I had talent to be good in this industry, but my character was getting in the way. And the things I was choosing in my lifestyle were getting in the way. And again, I didn't take action on that immediately right away. I didn't, all of a sudden change my life in that moment.
No, yeah.
But that stuck in my head for, fast forward 4 years later. I thought about that and made a decision to stop partying and stop drinking and doing everything I was doing. And that was part of the decision, was that one thing that guy said to me in that moment that stuck with me.
It's like a seed.
100%.
It got planted, and then it just started worming its way through.
100%. It was a seed. And at the time I heard it, but I wasn't ready to
receive it.
It. Right. But it stuck with me. And I remember thinking, like, I can do more, I can be better. And so that was another kind of pivotal moment, I would say, when I was younger, of something someone said to me in this industry that kind of stuck with me.
Well, here's a question I have for you that I know some originators will resonate with. You were what I would call a solo artist for a while.
Okay.
Meaning you have control issues. It's okay. You're a control freak. By the way, every single originator that's worth a damn is a control freak. So it's a compliment. It's a high compliment. But how did you start to scale your business? How did you start to trust teammates to take on other responsibilities? How did you start to grow from, because you cannot get big without trusting others and letting them help you go up.
Absolutely.
So do you remember was there a moment? Was there a process? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I do remember actually that process and trying to grow, but not wanting to necessarily let go of control. You have to have the right people.
Yeah.
You have to have the right people, because you cannot grow and you cannot delegate to the wrong people, or they could ruin your business. They can ruin a relationship for you. They can do all that. For me, it was, I found a gal in the office who I knew was really good at what she did. And I was kind of stuck at that 2 million a month number. Couldn't really get over that.
That's a lot of originators.
Right. And then I was like, okay, if I can get Marla, remember Marla?
Of course.
Fantastic. If I can get Marla, I feel like I could go from 2 million to 4 million. And somebody made the decision because I was like, she was being shared by 2 or 3 other loan officers.
Yep.
Someone made the decision. They said, okay, you can have Marla solely. And like right away I went from 2 to 4 million.
So describe that process of finding the right person, because everyone would agree with that. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, if I had the right person," but like that's not an easy thing. I've gone through people personally where I was like, I thought it was the right person, and so what was your process like, and how do you find a right person?
You got to hire like teachers' pets. You got to find the people that raise their hand in class and they're sitting in the front row, they're taking notes, and they care about the client. It doesn't matter if they been in the business for 20 years. I've had people that have been in the business for 20 years on my team before that did not care about the client. They were out the door at 5 o'clock on the dot, and they were there for the paycheck and the benefits. But they were the most experienced person in the office.
And probably talented. Yeah.
Absolutely talented. I've also had people on my team that were the exact opposite, that maybe weren't the most experienced, but you could tell that they cared about the client. And that's all you really need to start. The rest you can build around. You have to find people that care. Like the people that get nervous if they miss a phone call, or the people that get nervous if they think that they did something wrong, right? Like that shows that they care.
Yes.
If you don't have that, and I don't think you can teach that.
You know what? You got to look for it. You're right.
Absolutely.
You're right. It's either they got it or they don't got it. And 100%.
So I think you find those types of people, and even if they're not the most experienced, you can teach them. but you have to just hire people that care. And then you feel comfortable with handing off jobs or duties or loans to them, knowing that client is going to get taken care of no matter what, because that person cares for the client and they're not going to let anything happen to that transaction.
It's good advice, dude. It's a good personal story. I get it. It's right.
Yep.
So let's go another step deeper. You got loan officers that work for you now, bro.
I have a couple.
Yeah. What's that like? Why did you do that?
Why did I do that? That wasn't planned.
So that's okay. So for people, I know Cory for a long time. When I said solo artist, I was more referring to him, having loan officers around him, building a team, supporting other people like that. That was never your plan.
No.
So what's that been like? What's the story? What's the process?
So that's been interesting. Now I know what you felt like when you were managing all of us at iMortgage, and we'd come screaming in your office about
whatever,
what color the sky is that day.
So true.
No, for me it was like I never intentionally ever hired a loan officer. It was more like I had friends in the business that were self-sufficient, that were at companies or situations that were not optimal.
Yep.
And they saw what we were doing.
Yep.
And they came to me and said, "Hey, maybe I can work with you." Instead of, it was never like I'm going to target.
It was attraction,
not promotion.
Yeah.
And the loan officers that work with me right now at Franklin, they're all self-sufficient. They run their own teams. I'm there for them if they need something. And it's a little bit different than hiring a guy that's got 6 months in the business, doesn't know what the debt to income ratio is. That's a lot of work.
Well, what have you learned?
What have I learned? I learned it's extremely difficult to be a top originator in the industry and be a manager / psychologist /
support,
whatever on any given day. But honestly, the people that I'm working with now, everybody's self-sufficient. Literally, I get a phone call maybe once a week if there's an issue that I'll jump in on. But that's because they're all professionals. They're all solid. They all know what they're doing. And that's another big piece of it too, is along with hiring people that care, you got to hire people that are professionals, that know how to run a business. So it's been cool. I don't have this I'm not trying to get to $2 billion a year in volume and have 50 loan officers. And that's not what I'm trying to do. But I feel like if the right person comes along, that's, maybe their business is good, but it's not great. And there's a few things that we can tweak or provide a better service because we have, 1 hour turn times and underwriting, whatever it is. And it is the right person and it fits. And absolutely, I'm willing to grow along those lines. I'm not willing to grow along lines of, trade in my personal happiness and my quality of life for a couple new loan officers.
So Cory, let's go here for a second. What's your favorite realtor story? And I'm not even going to add like adjectives to that. I'm just going to say your favorite realtor story. And I'm just going to let that one sit out there.
There's been so many.
Oh, of course there are.
You'd have to give me like an hour to prepare for that question.
I mean, some of the things have to stand out early on origination days, later on firing that one realtor, that was making your life hell. What stands out from your days?
Yeah. I mean, I've fired a lot of realtors. For sure.
Well, share a story there, how that works. Because some loan officers, that's terrifying. They don't know what that means. They don't know how to do that. They don't know if they should do that.
Here's what it took me a while to figure this out. And it's so difficult if you're brand new. Because if you're brand new,
you want any deal.
Take every deal. You're going to do every single transaction that comes across. You want to help every single client. The realtors that come along and refer you, it doesn't matter if they're good or not, or if they respect your time on the weekends or not. You're going to do every transaction that comes to you. And I did that.
I did that. Everyone does that.
Right. And so,
but it's not mature.
No.
And it's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. So what happens is eventually you start to realize that if you're starting to do enough business with the wrong people, that your quality of life starts to be affected. And what I mean by that is you're getting phone calls at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, no boundaries.
And it's not, I'll take a phone call at 10 o'clock at night from an agent that's writing an offer on a client in that moment and they need a pre-approval letter. I'll do that all day long. I'm talking about the agents that will call because they want flyers made for the next morning at 9 a.m. and they're calling you at 10 o'clock the night before.
Yes.
And if you don't get the flyers to them, they're going to badmouth you across the entire office and talk about you're the worst.
Why is that a thing?
That's a story.
I know,
That's
it's
one of my stories that's happened before, where I couldn't produce flyers within 8 hours of the time requested on Saturday. I'm like gone. I'm like out of town or something.
Of course.
You know, and there's no respect. But I think that the key is to find people that you like working with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this business isn't sustainable.
Well, yeah. I mean, why? Why do you say that?
I say that because the stress and the anxiety of getting your head kicked in over and over and over again by people that don't respect you or your time is not sustainable to do for long periods of time. Eventually, you're going to want to leave the business and do something else. Although it might mean leaving a little bit of money on the table at the time, in the long run, your quality of life, your happiness, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your kids, if you have kids or your significant other, those things, in my opinion, are way more important than doing an extra 1 or 2 loans a month. And the sooner you figure that out, the better off you're going to be, because it'll make this business sustainable for you. I could operate if I'm working with a bunch of people that I like and I'm friends with and I would go hang out with on the weekends.
Well, you go to battle for those people.
Absolutely. I'll wake up at midnight and write a pre-approval letter for a lot of them, the majority of them, because it's a friendship, it's a relationship. And if you're working with people like that, and same goes with loan officers. If you have loan officers that you're working with in your branch or your region, whatever you want to call it, if it's people like that, you can do that forever. What you can't do forever is get 15 phone calls
and text messages
blowing
you
up and, you know, bad mouthing you and cussing you out for not getting them flyers. You can't, that is not sustainable. You won't be able to do business like that for very long.
Bro, I have a micro story. There was a realtor who I in the market in Orange County forever. So even when I was originating, all the way through 10 years, all the way through that stuff. And new loan officers would always come in super stoked because they'd be like, Alec, and I won't use her real name. Still call her Stacy. Alec, Stacy told me I could bring flyers to her house and waters. I'm breaking through. And I'd be like, what's Stacy's last name? Oh, no, she does that to anybody, dude. You did not break through. She will do that to you and never send you a customer until you realize that you're dumb and that you shouldn't be doing this, because she'll never send you a customer. She'll just take from you forever.
Takers.
And it's true, though. You're hearing these stories and talking about realtors that, it's true. And by the way, loan officers can be pieces of crap too. So, just fair trade, of course, there's some bad people out there that mess up people. And so it's fair.
Yeah. There's a lot of, places or banks or loan officers that could do the same thing in return.
So let me summarize this up and then ask a final question here.
Yep.
So you ate dirt for 9 months.
Yeah. It's more like a year and a half before.
Fair enough. A year and a half.
Yeah.
And then you've had breakthrough moments. You had moments in that year and a half where you had little glimmers of hope that would come in. But you stayed in it. You stuck in it. You built an incredible career. You really have. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
So there's actually new loan officers coming into the industry right now. It's weird. It's like,
where are they coming from?
They're coming from all over the place, man. They're coming from different industries. They're coming into mortgage. Now, some of them are coming in because they saw 2020 and they thought easy money. They won't survive. But there's new blood coming in, which is exciting because the crisis wiped out all the new blood.
Yep.
It really did, in my opinion. Even though it was a decade or so ago, it just crushed these new people coming in.
Yeah.
So for those newbies coming in that are looking ahead, going, can I make it 6 months, a year and a half? Can I really push through? Especially given how weird everything is now with COVID, and social media is way different than it was, when we started. What advice do you have for those people? Because they're looking at you going, you're a monster now. $450 million, 500 on the cusp of 500 million, a team, like you're like untouchable to them.
I would say you got to focus on the actions, not the results.
That's awesome, bro.
If you just do X, Y, and Z on a daily basis, right? And it's so simple, people overcomplicate it, right? Like,
Yes, they do.
if you just do X, Y, and Z on a daily basis and you write down a business plan, you say, okay, I don't care if I get any loans for the next 120 days or 6 months. I'm just going to do these things every day.
Name some of them.
So
You don't have to give the whole plan.
Right. No. And I will give the whole plan because, it
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter anyway.
They're not
right?
going to do it.
They're not going to do it. So what I would do and what I did do is every single weekend, I would find a way to get in front of realtors, and it doesn't have to be realtors. It could be CPAs. It could be financial planners. It could be state
referral partner opportunities.
Any type of referral partner opportunities. When they had broker preview meetings, which I don't know if those are back full.
Some are back, some are virtual, some are but some are holding broker previews by appointment. It's weird, but yeah.
Basically, no matter what kind of event it is, I would just find a way to get in front of people on a regular basis. Yeah. I would do it in person. I would do it by phone, and I would also do it by social media.
Absolutely,
get in front of them. Become friends with them on social media. That's another way to stay in front of somebody. It's an easier way to stay in front of people.
And you can do it wrongly and inappropriately, but you can do that face to face wrongly and inappropriately.
Of course. Email them, provide them with information. Focus on those actions and really get detailed and targeted. Okay, here's the people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
Write down a list, and here's what I'm going to do every single week. Every single day, every single week, every single month. I'm going to do this for 120 days or 6 months. I'm going to see what happens at the end of it. And don't get spun out because 60 days go by and you don't get a loan. Yeah, or don't get spun out because even 90 days go by and you're not doing, $20 million a month in business, because that's not how it works. Anything that's sustainable is going to be tough to get into, right? You can go to a call center right now and sit down and make a ton of money over the next 6 months until rates go back up. You can do that. But in the long term, you'll be much more successful doing it this way because you're building a career, you're building something real and something that's sustainable because you have real relationships in the purchase business.
Yep.
So if somebody was brand new, I would tell them that, because I've seen a lot of people come into the business, they try it out for 60 days, like, oh, this is not working.
Absolutely.
He's different, he did this, or, he's different than me. And so it was easier for him, whatever the case is.
Yep.
I wouldn't lie to yourself like that. I would just come in, I would focus on those actions, and I would keep going. And, I wouldn't stop, and I wouldn't get cracked or depressed or bummed out when you're not doing $20 million your first 30 days in the business.
Because, Cory, what's on the other side of all that for you? You came through it. You're on the other side. Doesn't mean you don't have goals. You have new things to accomplish. You're not retiring.
Right.
But what is on the other side of that? What have you experienced?
The other side of it for me was freedom.
Yeah.
And happiness, and being able to spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
Being able to make your own schedule.
Yeah.
I think it really boils down to just having more freedom. When you're starting off in something new and you're trying to break into a market like that, which is difficult, right? Because everybody has a guy, like we said, and he's working with me or he's working with you or whatever the case may be. That's a difficult market to crack, but I would just continue to stay consistent. And eventually, if you stay consistent long enough, there's no way it won't happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
That's it, dude. You're living proof of that, man. You stuck through it. You went through the pain, and then you got on the other side of it. Doesn't mean you don't still have pain. It's just not that pain anymore.
It's a different set of problems.
That pain is a unique pain.
It's a unique pain.
It's a unique pain.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks for your inspiration today, man. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thanks for hanging with the crew out here and letting them know what's possible and sharing some stories, bro.
It's good to see you, man.
Love you, bud. Appreciate
you, bro.
All right, Modeling Podcast, we're out. More guests coming this week and a special surprise in November. Appreciate you.